Welcome to The Writer's Dream. This is a show where writers talk about how they write their books, how they publish them, and how they market them. You can see The Writer's Dream on YouTube. Just search The Writer's Dream. And we also have a Facebook page. If you have questions about the show or any of the people you see on the show, you can ask the questions on Facebook and we'll answer them. Today, we are going to do a different show. We do not have a guest per se, but we have Karen Bonnet, who is sometime director, sometime camera person, sometimes hostess, and sometimes guest on The Writer's Dream, and myself, Linda Maria Frank, and we're going to talk to you about our wonderful journey through the last 2 years of The Writer's Dream. So Karen,
and
tell us.
It was a wonderful journey.
It was fun.
2 years later almost, and over 50 guests later.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful experience.
Yes.
And we've met a lot of interesting authors along the way who've told us about their experiences with writing their books and marketing and promoting, and we all of us know that that's the hardest thing to do, the most time-consuming thing. But so tell us how you began this journey with the TV show.
Well, the TV show, first of all, I have to say, who would have ever thought that at this point in time we would be promoting books? The writing part was, we could kind of understand that. We'll talk about that later. But,
yes.
But the promoting part and then getting into the whole idea of having a TV show is, to me, just so exciting.
That's like a very big portion of our marketing, I would say, of the books.
I would say so. And not only that, we not only market our own books by just being on the show, but also we are helping other authors to promote their books.
Exactly.
And but the way the TV show came about was I was doing an author's day in Riverhead Library, and a man came in and he said he knew about a studio and he had an idea about doing a writing show, and it just went from there. And then eventually I took over the show and found a sponsor, because in order to do the show here, you have to have a sponsor who says there's a need for this show in East Hampton, and got a crew together.
Right.
Karen and Dina Santarelli, who is sometimes on the show,
and Joe.
Genevieve Lee, who is usually our director,
right.
And she's in Florida for the winter, and then Joe Satriano, who is also an author, and he is our cameraman today.
That's right.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
And so once a month we get together and we do 3 shows. We come out to East Hampton and we do 3 shows. And in the beginning I worried about where would we get our authors from, but certainly we don't have that worry anymore.
They all found us.
I
think also belonging to author groups like Long Island Authors Group and Long Island Children's and Writers and Illustrators Group. There's so many authors and aspiring authors in those groups that helped us tap into other authors that we never knew existed.
Yes, and sometimes people say, "Oh, what famous people have you had on the show?" And I say, besides Karen and me, famous people really don't need us.
Right.
We're trying to make people famous.
Right, the local authors who haven't quite reached that level of fame yet.
Yes. So why don't we start at the beginning? Tell us about yourself, Karen, and what you do and how you got into writing.
Well, I'll start with my business. I was starting out as an editor for newspapers, and then I always loved writing and I always loved reading as a kid, and so it was a natural path for me to take to go into that field. And then I got involved in public relations and marketing when I started working in a nonprofit, the Ronald McDonald House of Long Island. And then I decided to finish writing my book, and I also wanted to get it published. So I started my own business, giving me a little more free time, and it's called KLB Services, and that's public relations and marketing, and that's what I do in my day job. And then as far as my book goes, I have a children's book. It's called Whale Island and the Mysterious Bones, and it's an exciting adventure story for children, 8 to 11, and I'm hearing such great responses from not only children, but from adults and teachers who've asked me to send it to them, and I'm doing book talks in many different schools, and I enjoy that. Now I have, because I have a lot of marine animals in my book, and my book has a nautical setting, I have a trifold board of mammals of the ocean, and the kids love it because I adopted a whale, and they think it's the greatest thing. I adopted a whale for many reasons, and one of them is to help preserve our waterways and preserve whales from slaughter. And the kids think it's great. They ask me where I keep my whale.
I was just going to say, I was just going
And
to
I tell them, no, it's not in my bathtub.
Yes.
But it's been great, you know, with the whole journey of the writing part for me was the best part. And
So your career actually started out as a writer. You really
Right.
are a professional writer.
Yes.
What kind of services do you offer at KLB?
At my business, I
Yeah.
have public press release writing. I help with people with their fundraising. I do marketing materials. I design. I have a graphic design. I do all kinds of marketing materials. I have a web designer on my team. I don't do web design myself so well. I can do some of it, but when it's something that's very important or needs a lot of bells and whistles, I have a web designer or two on my team who does that kind of thing. And so it's all kinds of marketing and public relations to get people more brand their business or their nonprofit and more awareness and more publicity. When I worked for a nonprofit, the Ronald McDonald House, I increased their publicity by probably 40% in the 4 years I was with them. So, you know.
Well, having worked with you on these projects, you really do a good job, especially with getting the message out, and that's the important part
Yeah.
about the book. So
Thank you.
actually for you, writing a book was kind of an outgrowth of
Right, it was a natural
of your
thing. I wanted to do
education,
something
really.
creative instead. Usually it was business writing,
Right.
and writing for newspapers is not the same thing as creative writing. Journalism is very different than writing a creative story or book. So that was
And
just
your
fun
book-
for me.
And your book is a children's adventure book.
It's an adventure story.
Whale Island and the Mysterious Bones.
Yeah.
And who are the main characters and what are they like?
Oh, Katie and Will. Well, Katie and Will are brother and sister. They're 10 and 11 years old, and they live in Cape Cod. And on the last day of school, they're both very different personalities. Will, I have a lot of characters in my book, all kinds of characters, including a lot of animals. But Will's personality is a lot like my brother, Mickey, and I tell the kids that when I do book talks, that he's a lot like my brother. Because when you're a writer, you go by your past experiences and the people in your lives and everything around you to develop your plot and your characters. So he's a lot like my brother. And Katie, maybe a little like me. You know, you kind of, and the other characters all have their own personalities. So on the last day of school in my book, their uncle takes them on his boat, and the boat capsizes, and that's when the whole adventure begins, because they end up on an island somewhere. They don't know where they are. They make their way to try to find a town. They're very upset because they don't know where their uncle is after the boat capsizes. They find an abandoned cabin. It's nighttime. They fall asleep there. Then they make their way to town, bump into a very big man, big beefy guy, who tells them that they could use his captain's cell phone because all the phone lines are down from the storm. And against their better judgment, they go onto the ship called the Barking Barracuda. They should have known by the name of the ship. And then you meet the captain. He's, of course, the villain of the story, and he's a very cold, stony-faced man. They don't know it yet, but he still hunts whales. And that's when everything starts. He kind of takes them away.
He kidnaps them.
Kidnaps them and takes them on a journey thousands and thousands of miles away to Whale Island, which is in the Indonesian islands. And they're on a quest to find these mystical whale bones, which when they find them, the captain knows about them. It gives them certain kind of powers, the mysterious whale bones, including the ability to understand animals. So there's a lot of things that happen. They meet a lot of different animals along the way, and a whale named Nalene. And it's a great adventure. Kids love it.
Your book is, I've read your book and it's exciting. It has the most imaginative animals in it. I love
Thanks.
the magic whale, so to speak.
Nalene.
And that's the kind of escapism that I guess we all love.
Yes.
My books are for young adults.
Yeah, tell us about your books. I read 2 of your books and I absolutely love them. I love Nancy Drew, and I know that your books are kind of that kind of mystery and romance and suspense.
Yeah,
I love
that's
them
what I
both.
tried for. When I was a kid, I loved Nancy Drew. So that was kind of my model for the book, because unlike you, I'm not a trained writer. My education was science teaching, and I
Right.
taught science for many years. As a teacher, you end up doing quite a bit of writing.
Where
now.
did you teach?
Seaford. I taught in Seaford High School and Seaford Middle School, and then I went to Hofstra. I taught at Hofstra. I taught at Adelphi. So I had a long teaching career, and I just kept graduating.
So what made you get into book writing? What inspired you?
When I was teaching, I taught forensic science because I taught many different sciences, and I loved forensic science. I loved mysteries. I loved solving crimes. I especially liked solving ancient mysteries, not necessarily crimes, but ancient mysteries like, who put those cave paintings up on that wall and those kinds of things. So my love of forensic science and my love of Nancy Drew, what happened was while I was teaching in high school, I decided to write case studies for the kids to make it more interesting. Instead of just talking about how they do fingerprinting, let's write a case study with fingerprinting evidence and have the kids solve the crime, and they eventually had to present a court case. It was a whole project. And I grew to like the case studies. Then I started putting people in them. Once you put people in them, you're hooked. And I said, I'm just going to try to write a mystery story. So because I wasn't a trained writer, I took a writing course, and
What was the name of the writing course?
I took it with Long Ridge Writers Group, and it's like a correspondence course. And I wrote the 2 books. Every time I write a book, I take a course because it gives me the confidence, and I learn more about writing. I've also joined writers groups. For instance, there's Long Island Children's Writers and Illustrators,
Right.
and they have a meeting once a month, and you can actually bring your writing there and have it critiqued in a gentle environment, which is not necessarily what happens when you send it to
Right.
an agent or a publisher.
And they do have not only authors published, they also have aspiring authors who are still in the process of writing books.
Right, so it's a
there.
good supportive group to belong to. And I published 2. We both self-published.
Right.
In fact, Karen and I do a program in libraries and any other venue who will take us called So You Want to Write a Story. And it's basically about people who have an idea, they want to write a book, and they don't know how to proceed with it. Since we've done the self-publishing, what do we talk about?
Oh, we talk about everything having to do with the publishing world. What do we go into? We go into, first of all, the writing and the editing, and then the publishing process and who to look for. It's important to compare publishers because not all publishers are the same. And there's a lot of self-publishers out there now.
Oh, yes.
And even some of the traditional publishers have a self-publishing division now.
Yes.
I think Simon & Schuster has one.
Yep.
And there's so many, so we try to tell people to really research, do all the research before choosing one. We tell them the pros and cons of self-publishing, and what are the pros and cons? Want to go into some of that?
Well, the pros of self-publishing is that you're not waiting for it to happen. You can, if you choose a good self-publishing company, they will vet the book. You will not be printing any old stuff.
Right.
In other words, they have industry standards that they want you to adhere to. You have to go through an editing process, and you have to produce something that's pretty good.
Right.
And because one of the major criticisms by traditional publishers of self-publishing is the quality of the book. So it's in your best interest to produce the best book you can. It has to be well edited, free of mistakes, and attractive. And but you're going to get it. Everything's under your control. Even the ISBN number, if you want it to be the copyrighting,
copyright is to you.
producing the book, and then once you have the book in your hands, of course, then some of the companies also offer marketing packages for you.
Right.
So you're
Which are
in
pretty
control of
expensive.
the entire process. When you go traditional, what happens is that you are waiting for someone to approve you, and we know
And
that
that can
many
take a
famous
long time.
authors
Yeah.
went through a long process.
Right.
And the cons, I would say, of self-publishing is the cost. You can spend a lot of money. You can, but you really have to be a comparison shopper, be
Right.
careful of what you're doing, and don't spend a lot of money.
Right.
You know, you're going to have to spend something, but I look at it as if I wanted to open a cupcake shop, I'd have to take out a business loan to pay the rent on a building and
It's
the
an
machinery.
investment. It's an
Yep,
investment.
exactly.
When you self-publish, you're taking out an investment in your book.
And the other thing we get into is social media. You want
Yeah.
to tell us something about social media?
Well, okay, there's so much with social media out there. Facebook, I guess when you have a book or a business even, it's important to be on Facebook. You and I both have a Facebook page. You have one for this TV show, and then for our books, because we want people to get to know about us, and you have to do all the postings, and that takes quite a lot of time. And if you're doing a book talk or you have a picture, you pop that in there. Anything to get people to read your Facebook page. And then there's Twitter, which you just started that.
Yes.
And then there's LinkedIn for businesses. Like I'm on LinkedIn as well. There's so many of them out there. There's
I have
Pinterest as well.
Yes, there's Pinterest. I don't know whether it's so much for the books, but there are a lot of web pages you can get on.
Yes.
Goodreads, for instance,
Right.
which is a very, very popular site for readers, has an author's page. Amazon has an author's page where you can, both of these, you can start a blog.
Right.
You can also post your events, your biography.
Yeah. Author's Den is another one.
Author's Den is wonderful. Author's Den has a lot of
They
possibilities.
give you a web page as well.
And they also, for a price, you can do extra advertising, and the price is pretty reasonable. I'm
Yeah.
on Dan's Papers. I have a advertising page there. I also have my website. By
Right.
the way, the names of my books it's called the Annie Tillery Mystery Series.
Right.
And the books are called The Madonna Ghost, and that's what I named my book page on Facebook, fans of The Madonna Ghost. And I also have Girl with Pencil Drawing. Those are my books. And I'm writing
you have a third book now.
Yes, the third one is almost finished. The rough draft is almost finished. It's called Secrets in the Fairy Chimneys.
How did you come up with the the plot for that one? I know it has something to do with Turkey and
Yeah, I love those ancient mysteries.
Yes.
So I wanted to put my heroine, whose name is Annie Tillery, I wanted to put her at an archaeological dig because
Right.
I always wanted to be at an archaeological dig, and I've actually done a lot of research on it. And so she goes to Turkey, and she goes to this region of Turkey called Cappadocia. And Cappadocia has very, very strange and weird geological formations, and they look like cones. Remember the cone heads from
Yes.
Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
We're both old enough for that. But that's what they look like, but they call them fairy chimneys.
You've been to Turkey,
Yeah,
so
Turkey is
there's a lot of-
Turkey is really very interesting.
very important to do a lot of research, and you've
Sure.
already done a lot of research on Turkey. You've been there.
Sure.
For anybody when they're writing a book.
They say,
or-
write what you know about it.
Right.
My first book is Fire Island, which I know.
Yes.
I was a sailor at one time. And the second one takes place in Manhattan and Brooklyn, which I
Right.
love. I love the city.
Yeah.
So
Always put
this
those
helps you really, describe and get into the whole atmosphere of the book. Because I think the atmosphere of a book is very important. The characters are great and
Yes.
whatnot. For me, it's atmosphere. It must be the decorator gene in me or something, but I like atmosphere.
Right. I wanted to have a very adventurous atmosphere, and that's
you
what.
did,
It's a
yeah.
very quick-moving book because there's always something happening.
Yes.
And I think the hardest part for me with my book was trying to make sure I developed my characters so that they each had their own voice. So that's so important, and you know that as an author. So you want them each to be identified and kids to have an emotional reaction and like your characters.
Sure. You have to have some sympathetic characters, and you have to have some that I call them the evil characters.
Yeah, the villain.
They're the easiest ones to do. I
Yeah.
don't know why, but I find them the easiest to do, and
Yeah.
I find that your sympathetic characters, for instance, I have Annie and her boyfriend. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate between the two of them.
Yeah.
I have to, because they think they agree on a lot of
Right,
things, but I
they-
have to
but they
make
do
him
sound
very
different.
male.
They do sound
Yeah,
different.
And I have to make her very
Yeah.
female. And
Yeah,
actually, I
that
just
was-
finished a very exciting project where I made a digital audio of
Oh,
the
yes.
first book.
Tell us
And
about that.
The digital audio.
How did you find out about that? Is there a website that people can go to?
I believe that I got an email from a friend who had gotten this advertisement on her email. And the website is acx.com.
Right.
And you go on there, and it just tells you step by step how you will do this. And you can actually do it, you can pay for it if you want to, or you can do royalty sharing with the producer. And I found a woman who was interested in the project, and so she gave a voice to Annie. So
So
Annie's.
is she a voiceover? Is she someone who?
Well, the producer is the person who actually does the sound, so she has sound equipment, and she's
Okay.
done the recording. So it's finished, but I have to wait for Audible Audible is the biggest distributor of audiobooks, digital audiobooks in the
Okay.
world. They have to vet it, decide that it's, good quality and there's
Okay.
no glitches in it. And then,
And then you can begin to promote it.
right, and
That's
then
great.
I'm excited to promote it with the woman I'm working with, the producer,
Yeah.
because she's done it before, so she's going to
Yeah.
give me marketing tips.
That's
And as we
great.
all know, marketing tips.
Marketing tips, there's so many of them. You can always learn more about marketing.
Right. So Karen and I do, so you want to write a story in libraries, she does book readings, I do them as well. And we also have gotten involved very heavily with Long Island Authors Group.
Yes.
The website is Long Island Authors.